Today, we're going to be looking at some of the best community-made concepts for Counter-Strike 2. We've got a mix of a few skin concepts, some out-of-the-box ideas, and even some clever quality of life improvements lined up. Kicking things off with animated skins, a very controversial topic, especially among all the Valorant haters and skin collectors.
If they add this, honestly, I am insta-selling my whole inventory and uninstalling.
But while being a very controversial idea, you gotta admit some designs actually look pretty cool. Although I'm personally not the biggest fan of overly animated skins, I think simple and minimal effects fit CS2 a lot more, rather than going overboard like Valorant has.
We don't need the animated effects where you have a dragon come and reload for you. Fucking gay-ass fairy bullshit.
But even if they did just add animated skins with minimal effects, there would still be a huge concern about how this would impact all the non-animated skins. But maybe making something like an exclusive case that only dropped animated skins would be the solution here. Now, you can hate on Valorant all you want, but the game does have a lot of features I wish were in CS2. But besides an actual working anti-cheat, another highly desired feature would be the option to display your previous season's rankings on your profile. Luckily, Chrysler has brought the idea into CS2 with premier badges that change color depending on the rank you managed to achieve. And besides displaying your previous season's rank, it would also display the rank you achieved in each season, and I really hope we get something similar to this eventually, especially now that the main mode in CS2 is the Premier mode. Moving on, with the release of CS2, the ability to inspect grenades was introduced, with each grenade even having a rare animation. And that by itself was already enough to inspire a lot of community-made skin concepts for them. Even though I don't really think skins for grenades make too much sense, since it's only a one-time use item that you literally throw away. But then again, the developers have already added the shoes to the workshop submission list, so why wouldn't they add skins for the grenades as well? But more interestingly, it was also discovered that the smokes look slightly different depending on whether a CT or a T have thrown it, which then resulted in multicolored smokes to be found in the game files that include 8 different colors. Coincidentally, the same exact number of teams in Danger Zone. Let's now dive into the wonderful world of weapon concepts for CS2 that mostly consist of creepy and weird Asian mods.
What?
But there still are a few decent weapon ideas that we might potentially see one day, like the Scar 17 for an example that was actually supposed to be in CSGO, but was quickly scratched and has just been collecting dust in the files ever since. Then there's also the concept about adding a silenced rifle variant to the T side, or even a semi-automatic rifle just like in Valorant, or just a rocket launcher. Moving on though, it's looking likely that the next knife in CS2 is going to be the cookery knife, which I'm not really too excited for, to be honest, because there's so many better knives out there. Like the commando knife that just altogether looks really clean and even does a little spin. Then the neck knife that feels really fast paced and satisfying. And lastly the kunai that gives me major Valorant vibes and is a literal fidget spinner, but it does look really cool. There's also so many more that I can't even begin to mention. Next, I want to talk about the problem that's always been present with Stattrak Knives, which while more rare are often harder to sell and are therefore sold for less than the non-Stattrak version, simply because a lot of people don't like their knife to be scratched, especially if they're buying something really expensive like the Karambit Ruby. But Kaizo has supposedly found a solution to this problem by integrating a standard Stattrak counter from firearms onto knives. And I'm actually really interested to know what people think about this, because I personally think this looks absolutely horrible. I would much rather have a slightly scratched knife than a huge kill counter on it, but that's just my opinion. Now, something you might have not even noticed is the current state of Tradeups in CS2, which are incredibly underwhelming. But Tradeups used to be so much more and were a whole experience back in CSGO, so Kaizo has once again decided to take inspiration from the old and bring it to CS2, making a very similar system to the old one, while also making it more visually appealing and even adding the possible outcomes to it. But for some reason, he also decided to essentially make Tradeups exactly like cases, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I think Tradeups should be distinctly different from cases, but besides that, it's another really good concept by Kaizo, and hopefully Valve does add something similar to this one day that brings back the excitement we got from the old Tradeup system.
Please, 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 please. Please, please. Yes!
Now, another concept by Kaizo allows you to freely place stickers around almost anywhere you want, instead of only having 4 options to choose from, opening up a ton of new possibilities that normally wouldn't be possible. For example, you could place a sticker on the magazine or the suppressor to get a very unique looking effect. Sadly, I don't think we'll ever see something like this added, but it honestly might be for the best, because I guarantee people would figure out how to spell some absolutely horrendous things within the first day. Now, another really simple but a unique idea is the mix and match concept by Kaizo, that will essentially just allow you to pick and choose 2 different skins for a dual wield weapon, like the gloves and the shadow daggers for an example. Although I highly doubt we will ever get so much freedom, we might still see a skin in the future that featured 2 different primary colors, which would still be really cool, only without overwhelming amounts of choices. Another really small idea is to add custom reticle skins for the game. That reminds me a lot of the custom reticles in Black Ops 2. That looked really cool, but more importantly were purely cosmetic and didn't offer any real advantage. If anything, they probably made you a worse player. With that being said, I definitely welcome this change with open arms. Now lastly, we got another simple yet a major potential quality of life improvement, especially for all the new players, that would just let you change your view model in the settings, rather than having to use the console. I mean, at least we can finally customize our crosshair in the settings, but why do we still need to use the console to change simple things like the view model in 2024? As you can see, there's so many great concepts for CS2, but I'm also quite curious to know what your favorite concept was, so make sure to let me know in the comments below.